From Phoenix International Raceway, the Skoll Copper Classic is next on TNN's Race of the Week. How special is the Copper World Classic? Here today are Parnelli Jones, A.J. Foyt, Roger Ward, and more racing legends. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans. All those famous names are here, all right, as fans in the grandstands to watch the brightest young talent in America in cat-quick USAC midgets and bullet-fast Silver Crown cars. Plus NASCAR's wild and wonderful super modifieds and Southwestern Tour stock cars. Now, today we bring you the midgets and the stock cars. Next Sunday's Race of the Week will be Silver Crown and super modified. We got a lot to do, so let's get cooking. On the kind of a day that drives up real estate prices in the Valley of the Sun, let's go to Larry Newber down on the grid with what's being called the Midget Super Team.
The Steve Lewis stable has qualified 3 cars for today's race, and it begins on the outside of row number 1. Driven by the only man in the history of USAC to win all 3 open-wheel divisions in a single season, Tony Stewart. He also has had some early season IndyCar success in 1996. Starting on the pole is Kenny Irwin Jr. Kenny raced side by side with Tony a year ago practically every week. It's unanimous. This is the next guy moving on to racing's major leagues. Back in row number 2 is not a number 9, but note 3 by 3 is 9. That's Danny Drynan. Danny Drynan won this race a year ago. He was almost involved in a crash at the checkered flag. Who was involved in that crash is the man starting in row number 3, Davey Hamilton. Crash going for victory a year ago. Bobby Jarrell, mid-pack, continues this story.
Well, Larry, we're back here in the 19th starting position inside of row number 10. You talked about the 2 Steve Lewis cars up on the front row. Here's the third, number 91 with Chuck Gurney. And Chuck, you won this race 2 years ago, but yesterday pushed it a little hard in qualifying. Now you have to start way back. Is there enough time to get up there to the front?
Well, I hope so. The car's running real good. It's been working good, and I just tried something different qualifying, and it caused us to run high on the track, and it hurt our starting spot. But the car is working real well, and it's not going to be time to wait around. It's going to be on the hammer from the get-go.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
It's worth noting that while Chuck Gurney starts here in the 19th spot, another guy to watch, Jack Hewitt, will start 22nd. Steve?
And Hewitt will be coming. You can bet on that. A huge turnout of midgets for this annual affair that draws them from all over the country. 34 cars will start. They're all being push-started, bump-started right now, which gives us a chance to take a look at the course here at Phoenix International Raceway, promoted by Buddy Job. And Larry Newber, you can't really call it an oval, and you can't call it a tri-oval. It's kind of a circle with a kink in it. 1 mile around, and the fastest 1 mile, they say, in all of American motorsports.
The graphic says D-shape, but that doesn't even describe it. The trickiest part on this racetrack is going into corner number 1 in these open-wheel cars. You have to brake very hard. And then 3 and 4 is a long sweeper. You're on the gas all the time.
You just saw Doug KALITTA there, part of the famous KALITTA drag racing family, and I guarantee you they're watching today, rooting for their man out of Michigan.
They support the open-wheel racing in short track ranks quite well, and it really is a very solid entry. A lot of former Copper Classic winners in this field, Steve. This should be a highly competitive race.
And the start is always just a little bit dicey. This is the fastest these cars go anywhere in the country throughout the entire season. And not all the drivers are used to that kind of a speed. And if you touch tire to tire with these cars, you're going to get in trouble.
You know, it's interesting. Every year we approach this race, and there's the most amount of intrepidation, but this is usually a very safe race. Now, earlier we mentioned about Doug KALITTA being one of the entrants in the Copper Classic 1996, and Steve had an opportunity to look at his operation.
Anytime you put a 6-foot-tall driver like Doug KALITTA into a race car called a midget, it's bound to be a shoehorn fit, which is why you'll see a lot of padding in and around these cars. But Doug and a very few other drivers have gone to something else, and that's knee protection, these knee cups. In the event of an upset, the knee is right in here, and these will give just enough to prevent further injuries, but they're not so stiff as to cause injury. Doug also says that in the race, it keeps him more solid in the car, not as much body movement. A great idea, and I can't believe everybody doesn't do it. Maybe that would be mandatory.
Incredibly, during the warm-up for this race, Chuck Gurney is pulled into the pit area. We have a report that there was an on-track incident
with another car, Steve.
Oh, Chuck Gurney has had just a horrible weekend. First a problem in qualifying, and now this. Here's a replay. Watch the 91 car in the 99 of Kevin Doty. Upper right-hand corner of your screen. Doty was just hanging out when Gurney came up and nailed him, as I said at the top of the show. Touch tires with these cars, and something not good is going to happen. Bob Gerald is down in the Gurney pit.
It's not the way you want to be taken out of a race before it even gets started.
Yeah, the guys are out there scuffing their tires, and I was motioning up underneath off the racing surface, and he just lost control. He got real sideways and came down and hit me and got me up in the air and bent the rear shock tower and the panhard bar. Enough, I mean, I wasn't going to try without looking at the car because it was a pretty hard hit. And he might have some front end damage.
Whatever you say, Chuck, you're in a different race than we were watching. Here they come, Larry Newber for the green flag.
Kenny Irwin is slow off the mark. He's right in the center of the racetrack. Danny Drynan gets a big jump that could have been a controversial move. He passed Irwin before they crossed the start-finish line.
But still, the green flag is out. 9X Tony Stewart also right there with Kenny Irwin Jr.
Stewart and Irwin are challenging Drynan on his early lap. All three of them are a candidate to lead lap number 1. Nobody's given up. Here they come off that high-speed corners number 3 and 4.
Billy Boat, a huge part of this.
Oh,
Whoa.
Drynan very sideways, and Irwin, despite that bad start, goes to the inside of Stewart, and I think Irwin might have led this lap number 1.
Well, they're showing it in scoring as 9X Tony Stewart over 9 Kenny Irwin Jr. with 33 Danny Drynan, Billy Boat, and Johnny Parsons. That's the top 5.
Billy Boat in that black number 15, third place right now. There you see it on your screen. He won a sprint car race in spectacular fashion last night at the nearby half-mile Manzanita Speedway.
So many position changes in the first lap and a half. Very difficult to even call them. But soon it will sort itself out. Davey Hamilton was running in the 6th place, followed by Doug Kalita, Andy Mishner, 48, number 6, Randy Talsma, 14, Steve Barth for 6 through 10.
We mentioned several former Topper winners, Irwin, Drynan, Johnny Parsons, Davey Hamilton, all former winners in one division or another here at Phoenix. So this figures to be a very competitive race, Steve.
And a fun one to watch. The midgets on the pavement going this fast, well over 100 miles an hour, and they dart. They're so sensitive to the steering wheel and to track conditions. We'll have 25 laps to watch them. Number 15, Billy Boat falling back, Larry.
Steve, it does not appear as though anything is wrong with the car. One major factor here at Phoenix, believe it or not, in these lightweight midgets is the draft. The draft is enormous out there, and if you get out of it, just like in a Winston Cup race, it costs you a great deal of track space.
In fact, that was very reminiscent. Once he got out of that draft, you're right, he just sunk 3 places like a rock, but here he comes back.
There's Davey Hamilton in that black-green trim number 7, all-time midget track record holder, winner of 4 super modified races here at the Copper Classic. He's currently 6th.
And followed by Doug Kalita, Mishner, Tolsma, and Barth. Stay with us, everyone, from the Valley of the Sun outside of Phoenix, Arizona. We'll be right back with TNN's Race of the Week. Back at the Copper World Classic, and the yellow flag is out for the midgets. The reason? Well, number 27, Jack Hewitt, is behind the wall. Problems already for the great sprint car driver out of the Midwest. Bob Gerald is there.
Well, Jack Hewitt out of the race. The two guys we talked about keeping an eye on, Chuck Gurney and Jack Hewitt, and Jack's the second one out. Jack, what put you out?
I don't really know. We had some kind of fueling problem or something. I don't know. It just started slowing down, and rather than burning the piston, we'll save her for IRP.
Lots of more races left to be run.
Yeah, it's not over yet.
1 lap to green, says the pace car. And Larry Newbert, you were absolutely right. There was an infraction at the start that has moved 33 Danny Drynan from 3rd to 5th. Let's have another look.
Well, watch the white car with the side pods in the inside of row number 2. Drop to the inside of the racetrack. You see pole sitter Irwin a little slow getting off the dime. Now, it's a bit unfortunate for Drynan because Irwin contributed to this just as much as Danny did, but still, it was Drynan's obligation to stay behind Irwin until he crossed that line.
Okay, this is lap number 8. The green is out. The Copper World Classic underway.
And look at Billy Boat dropping to the inside. The black number 15, the stealth boost to the inside of Stewart. Eclipses him, now goes inside of Irwin. We have a lead change. It's the old dirt tracker, Billy Boat, rapidly becoming one of America's strongest open-wheel racers.
And the reigning Western States midget champion. Now, Danny Drynan, who got penalized a couple of spots, is aggressively trying to get those back, Larry.
Drynan had a great restart. There he is in the white 33, looking to the high side of Tony Stewart in the white number 9. Now he drops to the inside of Johnny Parsons in that red trim car. Now to the inside of Kenny Irwin. He's underneath Billy Boat, gets a little loose. He cannot keep the momentum up, has to get out of the throttle.
Well, 9, Kenny Irwin Jr., he got a little bit loose himself coming out of turn number 2. Tires could be a factor before this is all over with.
That other white car, number 48, that snuck into your picture going down the backstretch, that is Andy Michener, who had not been heard of until now, and now Michener throws his hat into the ring. Top 5 status.
And across the start-finish line the last time, it was Billy Boat, followed by 9, Kenny Irwin Jr., 33, Danny Drynan, 69, Johnny Parsons, Andy Michener, number 48, 96, and 21, Doug KALITTA.
And look at Irwin, like shot out of a cannon on the backstretch. There's Michener on the inside in that white 48. This is the battle for third. Michener underneath Danny Drynan.
You know, and historically here, this race isn't always won from the front rows. We saw Stan Fox, I believe 3 years ago, win it from dead last.
It was an incredible performance, probably the single most outstanding, Steve, in the history of the Copper Classic. Stan Fox's win in a midget from last place.
So there is such a thing here as pacing your tires a bit. Obviously, you have to have a well-handling car, have the setup just right. That's also easier on tires. But you can't just go out and burn them off.
No, you can't. The tires are a very big factor in all the open-wheel races here at Phoenix International. Abusing his tires, you saw the number 48 car. That's Andy Michener, heavy on the brakes and scuffing off some of that valuable surface of the rubber.
We have got a yellow flag out for number 67, Pat Bliss. The second caution here in the early going of this 25-lap affair, and I believe that is Bliss down on the inside of the racetrack. They have to be very quick with the yellows. These cars come around so fast on this 1-mile track. And there's the problem. Debris on the racetrack. A silencer muffler, if you will. And that could even cause disqualification for the car that lost it.
We focused a lot on Dan Drynan's number 33. That's one of the most unusual cars in existence, as Bobby found out earlier.
Dan Drynan went to school for 2.5 years studying mechanical engineering. He built this car for this racetrack and for this race. This car has a rear end that sits 3 inches lower than any other car in the USAC midget field. It's also moved forward 1.5 inches. He has the fuel cell holding the fuel on the left side of the car to create more left side weight. A good thing on a high-speed oval. Now we come to the fun part. Most drivers sit very rigid in the cockpit. Drynan, he likes to kick back. 30-degree angle here, less drag on the driver's head. And I tell you what, guys, I think Dan Drynan's thought of everything.
Bob, about the time you think you've thought of everything, somebody will come along and upstage you. All right, it will be Billy Boat leading them down to the green for the restart here on lap number 11.
That number 7, Tracy Hines, there being shown in 9th position, has moved up from 17th start. He's having a great race, as is race leader Billy Boat in the black number 15. That's Kenny Irwin, the man who many thought was the pre-race favorite to win today. He currently rests in second, but he can't rest too much because there's that white 33 again.
Yeah, that's right. I think the Phoenix fans, if you had a book on this, would have put all their money on Billy Boat. Hugely popular. This is a terrific race. Tracy Hines, you mentioned, came from 17th to battle with Doug KALITTA for 8th spot.
Drynan, it's dropped off the pace. That white car, that's Danny Drynan. This team has been plagued with bad luck the past couple of seasons. Always very fast, often DNFs.
Maybe too many tricks on one midget. So headed for the pits is Danny Drynan. It's a shame to lose that car because it is so very unique.
Boat and Irwin suddenly find themselves with a very comfortable lead, although they don't really know it because there are no rearview mirrors, of course, on a midget. However, you can hear fellow competitors, so they have an idea that they've got a little bit of a cushion, and right now, at least, the race is between the two of them.
And sometimes you can tell who that competitor is by the exhaust note, because there's many different engine combinations in these midgets, and they all sound just a little bit different. But for Danny Drynan, it's silence here at Phoenix. We are back with our doubleheader race of the week, the Copper World Classic. Our first installment, the Mighty Midgets. This is Kenny Irwin Jr. getting around, or trying to get around, Billy Boat for the lead. And here's the move on the inside. Boat had the power. Irwin didn't have the handling to make it work. But he keeps attacking, keeps pressuring the 15 car. He pulls out of the draft and doesn't like the feel of it. Now he tries the inside, and Makes it stick with Boat attacking. Not enough. Kenny Irwin Jr. now in the lead of the midget portion of the Copper World Classic. As we saw, Danny Drynan, who was running so well, had some problems. Larry Newber has caught up with him in the paddock.
What went wrong, Danny?
Dropped a cylinder in the engine, just went off.
It looked very fast, even though you had the penalty. You got a little behind on a couple of the early laps. You still looked like you had enough to win this thing.
I felt that way. The car was trying to save it at first, and those guys were dicing pretty heavy. When I got set back, I had to make a move and go. I mean, there was a lot left, and just too bad.
Tough question, but was the penalty fair?
Definitely.
He's no fun at all. Doesn't even want to fight with the officials over a penalty. And let me tell you, nobody is immune from problems here. USAC's golden boy, Tony Stewart, smoking on the front straight and hangs a left around the wall. He's done. You don't pit in 25 laps and do anything.
Third and fourth on the screen. That's Johnny Parsons Jr., the son of the 1950 winner of the Indianapolis 500-mile race, looking to the inside of young and aggressive Andy Michener.
And as they go zinging around this racetrack, in fact, right through our speed shot, it's unfortunate to call them midgets because they are mighty of heart.
Parsons is a former winner also of a Copper Classic race. He won on the midget here a number of years back. Andy Michener right now, who leads Johnny. Andy in that red and blue trim number 48 is a young driver, as I mentioned, from Michigan. And now Parsons goes to the inside of Andy.
Johnny Parsons executes a absolute perfect pass to take that third spot away. And I tell you, they are closing the gap just a bit on the leaders, and here they are.
Well, like in NASCAR racing, Steve, when the leaders spend a lot of time and attention with each other, it slows them down. And we mentioned about the draft, and yes, the same principle applies. If you do stay in line, you actually get a few more RPMs out of the engine, and you can run a little quicker.
Well, something else that could slow them down, and that is lap traffic. And they're coming up on some of that right now with only 2 circuits remaining.
That's Kenny Irwin in the white number 9. Again, Billy Boat in the black number 15. As they now begin to kind of plot their strategy in their head, they see that heavy traffic right in front of them.
And it'll be interesting to see who can play that traffic the best. And certainly 15, Billy Boat is probably in a position to do that. I'm not sure right now you wouldn't rather be second than first, Larry.
Probably the absolute best place to be is second, just as you pointed out. The guy in second really has an advantage. He can see everything unfolding in front of him, plus he gets to respond to the move of the leader, whereas the leader is going to try and think ahead for both of the cars.
Well, they're coming up right now on number 34X, Danny Koger in turn number 2, and this is on the very last lap.
Into corner number 3, Irwin chooses the low line. He's right behind ERCSE in the red number 24. Boat is on the high side. They are side by side. Very exciting coming out of corner number 4.
Both of them were blocked. Irwin had to get physical, and it is Billy Boat taking the win. Yet another sensational Copper World Classic midget finish. Our congratulations to Billy Boat. And how frustrated do we figure Kenny Irwin Jr. was right there. You can see it in the cockpit. We'll be back to talk to the winner in second place as well. Commercial transportation for this broadcast has been provided by Ryder, the official transportation company for Opryland. All right, here's the top 5 finishes in the midget races. Let's right now go to Larry Newber with a winner of a thriller.
Billy Boat wins on the Phoenix Mile. He's backed up a win on the half-mile dirt track the night before in a sprint car, and Billy, the midget run just continues.
Yeah, this is probably the sweetest one yet, because it isn't very often that West Coast guy comes out here and wins on a mile.
Take us on that last lap. You were second to Irwin crossing the line, and then you got him on the white flag lap.
Yeah, if it hadn't been for traffic, I don't think I could have got Kenny, because I saw where everybody was. We kind of split that guy in the back, and then I took him on the outside, and those 2 guys coming off side by side. And luckily, Shane got off a little bit better than the 24 car, or it could have been the other way around just as easy. So it was a great race.
Well, a year ago, Billy Boat set all kinds of records for the most number of midget wins in a season. In 1996, it started out just as strong.
Bob Jarrell with Kenny Irwin Jr.
Kenny, second place in this one, and that's one of the wildest midget races we've ever seen. What a finish.
Yeah, it was a good race the whole time. Billy did a hell of a job, and this Lewis team did a great job all weekend, and I don't know, I feel like I kind of let them down. It come down to lap traffic, and
there were two cars side by side, and he picked the faster car, I guess. And
Looked like he got a little bit bottled up.
yeah, I mean, just picking the right spot, and this time we didn't do it.
All right, a lot more racing to go.
Yep, thank you.
Kenny Irwin Jr. gets the second place finish, and I tell you what, Steve, it's going to be hard for any of the races at the Carver World Classic to top that one.
And I tell you, there's a lot of racers that would trade Kenny Irwin Jr. for that second place. Jimmy Sills finished 7th, hoped for a lot better. Davey Hamilton, 12th. He should have been in the top 2 or 3 if you talked to him. And J.J. ERCSE finishing 20th. That was the car that Kenny Irwin Jr. tangled with right after the finish and maybe cost him the race unintentionally.